Game development can be tough, and very few developers set out to make a game that will fail. It does happen though, especially if a title is long on ambition and short on proper execution. Let's look at 15 of the most ambitious games over the past few years that flopped, whether in terms of sales, critical reviews, or player reception. Mass Effect Andromeda. Mass Effect Andromeda tried to do a lot. It tried to tell a new story with a brand new cast, with the team behind Mass Effect 3's stellar multiplayer in charge. It also opted for much larger play spaces and more build diversity. However, from the very outset there were issues, whether it was the plan to have randomly generated planets, Frostbite being a mess, high-level departures, etc. Despite being decent in several ways, Andromeda flopped hard enough that publisher EA reportedly canceled DLC to put the franchise on ice for a few years. Trektiyomi. Flying Wild Hog has a flair for style, but everything else seems to come up short. This could be seen in Shadow Warrior 3 and even more in Trektiyomi, a tribute to Akira Kurosawa's films with stunning monochromatic visuals and presentation. It was ultimately let down by its terrible combat and lack of soul. Though sales numbers are unknown, it received mixed reactions from critics, and a mixed rating on Steam from 984 user reviews. Project Cars 3. Project Cars 2 was a good game, albeit beset by bugs and various technical issues. Slightly Mad Studios promised that Project Cars 3 would be, quote, 200% better and, quote, a spiritual successor to Need for Speed Shift, and other marketing rhetoric. Unfortunately, on release, fans realized that the gameplay was dumbed down and more arcadey with no pit stops, tire wear, or fuel consumption. It wouldn't be the worst thing, but even by arcade racing standards, it wasn't anything special. Not only did it review worse, but physical sales in the UK were 86% less than the first game. At least it placed 5th in US retail for its launch month. Macat. Macat sounded pretty interesting at first, a recursive puzzle game where things get bigger as you venture to the center of the world, but smaller as you stand back, which serves as a parallel for its love story. Unfortunately, the gameplay doesn't do all that much with the mechanic. The controls are iffy, the story falls flat, and the end is an unwanted subversion. Macat received middling critical reviews at launch and has a mixed reception on Steam based on 438 user reviews. Chickaria Colorful Tale. Chickaria Colorful Tale is a story about Pizza, a dog who acquires a magical brush and uses it to color a world gone black and white. They subsequently embark on a journey to find Chickaria, solving everyone's problems along the way with themes of identity, creative blocks, and more coming into play. For as gorgeous and touching as the game was with strong critical reception, it didn't make the biggest impact. It has an overwhelmingly positive rating on Steam, but only 1,670 user reviews. Nevertheless, it's an incredible title that's worth experiencing. Pathologic 2. Despite the 2, Icepick Lodge considers Pathologic 2 more of a reboot, taking place over 12 days in a town slowly succumbing to an outbreak. Protagonist Artemi Barak must investigate and find a way to save it. Utilizing immersive elements and interacting with the townsfolk, one could choose to heal, steal, kill, and so on, managing the consequences that come with it. Despite average critical reception, Pathologic 2 has been celebrated for its unique gameplay, with a 92% very positive rating on Steam from 5,855 user reviews. Though 3 story scenarios have been planned, only one launched with the game. The second started development in July of 2020 and doesn't yet have a release window. Crackdown 3. When first announced, Crackdown 3 came across as this massive open-world sandbox where players could destroy everything. The power of cloud computing would facilitate this and pave a new path for in-game destruction. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. Following numerous delays and even the departure of creator David Jones, Crackdown 3 was revealed to have limited its cloud-based destruction to a squad-based multiplayer mode, which wasn't very good. Perhaps the developer bit off more than it could chew, or perhaps plans changed. Neo: The World Ends With You. This one breaks my heart, especially since The World Ends With You is one of my favorite RPGs of all time. Featuring a brand new cast, Neo has a fun new combat system and fully 3D visuals. The sleek presentation and excellent music by Takaharu Ishimoto, who composed the first game's music, are all here and feel great. Despite good critical reception, it only sold 18,799 copies in its first week in Japan. Square Enix further confirmed in a financial report that the title, quote, underperformed our initial expectations, end quote. It's a shame, especially with how long it took for a sequel to get made. Fuga, Melodies of Steel. Speaking of underrated titles receiving follow-ups that failed to meet expectations, CyberConnect 2's Fuga Melodies of Steel is the latest in the developer's Little Tail Bronx series. As a prequel to Tail Concerto, it sees a group of children commandeering a powerful battle tank to fight back against the Burman Empire. It featured a nice mix of conversations, turn-based combat, and exploration with a genuinely endearing story. However, about 6 months post-launch, the developer confirmed that it only recouped 120 million yen, about $806,831, of its 327 million yen budget, about $2,198,496. A sequel is coming next year, so hopefully it does better. Baldo the Guardian Owls. Baldo, the Guardian Owls, is inspired by the Legend of Zelda with its dungeons and the works of Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki, as seen in the hand-drawn art style. Beautiful for sure, but ultimately a mess due to terrible combat, annoying difficulty, numerous bugs, and ambiguous storytelling. On Steam, it has a mixed rating of a measly 150 user reviews and only 18 reviews on iOS with a 3.3-star rating. Deathloop. For all of its faults, repetitive gameplay, and wasted potential, Deathloop started pretty ambitiously, exploring an island with 4 regions and piecing together clues to ultimately assassinate 8 targets before the day was out. It was cool, and made even cooler by its 70s style aesthetic and soundtrack. Sadly, it didn't hold up past the first few hours. It has over 15,000 user reviews on Steam for a mostly positive rating, but launch sales in the UK on PS5 were the lowest ever for an Arcane game. It was also the 18th most downloaded title on the PlayStation Store in Canada and the US last year, so perhaps it did better in digital sales. For a game with this much marketing and critical acclaim, you would expect better. Below. It's crazy to think that Below was announced at E3 2013 as an Xbox console exclusive and then delayed continuously until 2018. Nevertheless, it felt like something special from Capybara Games. A dark, moody action-adventure title teeming with mystery. Though having roguelike elements wasn't the worst idea, the repetitive levels, snail-like progression, and numerous ways to get insta-gibbed made the permadeath feel too punishing. The developer made some improvements over time, but it remains at a mostly positive rating on Steam, with only 1,040 user reviews and a mixed critical reception. 12 minutes. 12 Minutes is a time loop game, with the twist being that it's confined to a small apartment where the same 12 minutes keep repeating in real time. Tack on an all-star cast of James McAvoy, Daisy Ridley, and Willem Dafoe, and it seemed like an intriguing mystery. Which it was, up till a point. Then things got a little too obtuse, the solutions too borderline abusive. The twists made it even worse, and only became more nonsensical with time. 12 Minutes has been relegated to 2021 and barely remembered, which is probably for the best. Last Oasis. The appeal of Last Oasis was simple. The Earth's rotation has stopped, leading to a perpetually scorching half and another frozen over. As a nomad, you command a walker, a massive walking ship base that's upgraded over time, sailing the sands, engaging in piracy and mercenary work, or joining a clan. Unfortunately, connection issues plagued the game at launch. As its criticisms piled up, the developer decided to rework the game entirely. Walkers were now static bases, pretty much removing the game's one unique hook. Raising the difficulty to an obscene level didn't help either, and there are only a few hundred players now compared to the 33,287 all-time peak from years ago. Twin Mirror. Of all of the games that Don't Nod Entertainment has developed over the years, Twin Mirror is certainly one of them. A third-person adventure game, it featured a journalist named Samuel who returns to his hometown following the death of his friend Nick. The events of his death are murky, so to piece things together, Sam can enter a mind palace, piecing together memories and imagining potential futures. For as neat as all that sounds, Twin Mirror was ultimately too short and its mechanics didn't feel nearly as good in execution. Don't Nod later revealed that it only recouped about 75% of its production investment, which it didn't believe would improve later. That's all for now. If you enjoy what you saw, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, now is a great time to subscribe. We upload brand new videos every single day. After subscribing, don't forget to enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next time, right here on Gaming Bolt.